Good evening, everybody. As you see, we got Coach Northern on with us tonight for the recap. So you know what time it is. We have a full slate for you today. Everybody in the SWAC played this weekend. So had a little rain, had some game delays, but we got all the games out the way. So just want to get started and see how Coach is doing over there. Like the shirt, Coach. Pete Richardson.
Yeah, man. Look, I had a chance to go home this weekend. Normally I do games for Mike Prince, the Prairie home games, and I had my brother fill in for me. And I went back. It's 30 years since we won the Black College National Championship at Southern. So pretty much every year they started having us come back, and we were honored before the game. Had a chance to see Coach Richardson, Coach Orlando, who coached me in college and was my offensive coordinator at Prairie View, Coach Bumpy, and quite a few other guys that I played ball with. So we ended up having a good time, catching up with each other despite the way the game came out. Look, I'm a quick little story. So I told my wife I was debating on starting the show off with a bag over my face. So I said, what kind of bag we got? And
I got one.
Hey, look, she was talking about, you want some Walmart bags? It's not that bad. So look, every school that I worked at lost this weekend. The high school I graduated from lost. Grambling lost. Prairie View lost. Texas Southern lost. So it was a bad weekend. And I said the only thing, so I told my wife as we're driving back from Baton Rouge, I say, check and see did Morehouse lose. And lo and behold, they were off this week. So look, it was bad from a football standpoint, but I had a good time this weekend.
Yeah, I did too. It wasn't much fun getting wet, but I did have a good time. And my voice just came back, so I'm good on that. And I think my hand's feeling better from slamming the seat, to make the noise. So so it was really good. So we'll get started. Brief recap of some of the games that were played this weekend in the SWAC. And then we'll get to the other point of, we'll get a chance later tonight to get under the headset with you. Mm-hmm. And we'll be able to go over those things. We had some, some interesting games. I didn't get to see this game, but from looking at the stats, it looked like it was a pretty fun game. Actually, if I remember right, Jackson State won the time of possession. That was pretty cool. I think what seemed to get them was the 2 turnovers, and I think you saw some of this one. So I want to see what your thoughts are on this game.
I saw a little bit of it. I think, like I say, Jackson is who I think they are, minus the turnovers. If you look at them, I want to say they outrushed Southern Miss, but you could see sort of throughout the ball game, those guys for Southern Miss didn't want to make some tackles throughout the game. But I thought Jackson, if they sort of that third quarter sort of hurt them a good little bit, not being able to put any points on the board, and then they scored a couple late. So it was one of those. I think if you take away those 2 turnovers, you're probably looking at a totally different ball game in terms of the score as well as how the game is played. You get behind, you have to throw it a little bit more than you want to, in particular being at Jackson. But they did a pretty good job of sort of keeping the game close, sticking to who they were, minus the couple of turnovers.
Now, quick question: these teams, maybe they're not apples and apples, but what do you think of this game compared to when the Bees played against UAB? Are those similar? I like their performance against them as well last week. So, do you think they both kind of represented the SWAC pretty good?
I would say decently. I think the thing that the guys at Jackson not gonna have any fear of the guys at Southern Miss, and I'll just look at it like it's not like they playing a Ole Miss or LSU. They playing against guys that they know, being in the state of Mississippi, not that far apart. Probably some of their high school teammates or guys that they played against in the district, regional playoff type of situation. But you keep the game close and hope you can put some pressure on them at the end. But like I say, Jackson has no fear of Southern Miss. That's I would assimilate that something to, like, in my opinion, Prairie View playing a Rice, maybe one of the lower North Texas or something like that. They're not going to fear of them. It's not like playing UT at UT. Because if you look at a lot of times, Jackson is going to have more people at a game than Southern Miss if they play on the same day, similar competition. So Jackson guys not going to be fearful of them at all. So I think they can hold their own against them. The biggest key is not beating yourself with the special teams and not turning the ball over. And those 2 turnovers is going to hurt you every time if you don't win the turnover battle, unless you're playing outstanding defense.
Yeah, and then they kind of whistle. You got to fight the whistle a little bit because you see it. I don't normally see them get that many penalties, but 12 penalties, that and double the yardage, is kind of to be expected when you play a team they don't want you to beat.
Well, I think sometimes too the emotion of the game can get to our guys. The thing that hurts you more than anything is the pre-snap penalties in a lot of cases. So you're gonna have some of those, and if you look at it, you have 12 for 87. So that means you probably had either some offsides or some false starts, not the 10 and the 15-yard penalties. So it's probably more of the pre-snap, the knick-knack penalties that hurt you more than the holdings and personal fouls.
Yeah, holding on a kick return or something.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, so that was a pretty good one. We'll jump to the next one I thought was pretty interesting. The Braves against the Bulldogs. And that one was pretty interesting because the Braves put up a bigger fight than I thought they would. But the Cornelius Brown for the A&M, he really put on a pretty efficient and high scoring affair just by himself. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he SWAC Offensive Player of the Week based off the numbers. He had 3 touchdowns passing the football and another 2 running. I didn't look at his yardage total running the ball, but anytime you can get 5 touchdowns sort of on your own. And look, I never questioned Alcorn's fight. To me, the deal with Alcorn was going to be, will they turn the ball over and will they be able to throw the ball some? Decent passing yards, but not where the efficiency was there, but not the push downfield. The other thing that stands out to me is Alabama A&M was 8 of 14 on 3rd down. So anytime you can get off to above 50% on 3rd down conversions, you'll take your chances that you're going to win that football game. So that was pretty big for A&M with those numbers.
Yes, I think so too. And this one looked like it was 114. That that didn't help. So the score probably would have even been bigger if they could have cleaned that up. And once again, Alcorn had the ball longer, so that was pretty in it. But they did have they both had a turnover, so
yes.
Evened up in that part there, and looked like they had longer completion with A&M, so they were a little more explosive. They were fairly even on the rushing. So because Alcorn does like to run the ball, so so they came out pretty good there. With they kind of outgained them, 452 to 354. So Interesting game. I don't know if that's. Let's see. Did that one? I wasn't able to see. I wasn't sure if that's one of those non-conference SWAC games. Because the only team I know don't do that is Prairie View. And not saying that we're just great, but we just don't schedule SWAC games as non-conference. So
hey, one day off air, I'll give you a little backdrop on it. But for some people, it makes sense to play the non-conference conference game, especially to me, if it's the Jackson, Alcorn, Grambling, Southern, because that ride is not very far. It makes a lot of sense for those. Now, Prairie View go and play Alabama A&M, to me, don't make a lot of sense because of the travel involved and the number of fans. Now, if they do it for a homecoming game, you know, if Alabama A&M schedules Prairie View for homecoming and Prairie View decides to make that trip, I would be in favor of one of those coming to the other. But I wouldn't do it just to say, just from a travel standpoint, unless both of those fan bases really pick up in a traveling sense, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, got that. And next one up was the the one everybody wanted to see what would happen. Alabama State visiting the Jaguars. So I would imagine you were front and center for this one.
A little bit too front and center. so look, this is one of the things. So they honored us. So they give you these passes, and I'm sort of pretty straight up with people. So I say, look, I don't really care what this pass say because 9 times out of 10, I know the police officer that's working. So look, I'm gonna go around, I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna shake hands. I had a chance to talk to several coaches on both teams, and I watched most of the game. I watched the first half pretty much on the sideline so I could hear what the coaches are saying. Then I went to a suite area and watched a little bit before I did end up leaving. But I think Southern fans are in this wait and see type of mode of, okay, we lose to North Carolina Central, then we beat Valley. Now let's see. And a lot of people really wanted to see, was Andrew Body as good as advertised? And he played a decent game. He didn't have the UAB type of game, but Southern's defense really got after him, especially the first half. And then they just started falling apart on certain plays. Like one guy get out of position. And the 11-1 football is what I call it. Everybody else, if you look at the play, is doing exactly what they supposed to do. One guy get out of a gap, one guy miss a tackle, and then it turns into a touchdown for the Hornets. And they went on, it was like a quick spurt of a couple of turnovers in a row that led to the Alabama State run that they had. Because actually Southern took the lead, and within 4 plays of Southern taking the lead, Alabama State marched down, broke a long run, and then it like the wheels came off the Jaguar wagon. So it was good to see the guys playing, but I think it's just a couple of things that they have to clean up. Alabama State looked pretty good, but I think Body had a good game, but not the game that people were looking for from the way that he played last week.
Well, now that Southern front seven, they're not going to give you a lot of time, though, either. And with Givens out there on the end, you know, the containment is going to be a little better. And I think he doesn't like containment no quarterback likes containment, but I don't think he likes containment that much. As far as his best way to hit you is when you think he's going to run past the line of scrimmage, he stops and flicks it over, and that's a 20-yard pass.
Yeah, so they did a good job, especially with the backside pursuit on the zone read stuff and the play action. And Kelby had a good bit of help, I would say, in certain instances where the front side may pull him up, where sometimes if you have a quarterback that scrambles, one guy can't stop. It takes a concerted effort from everybody to either keep him contained, keep him on the move, make him pull up. And, man, it was a crazy game because Southern's defense had several opportunities on some tip balls to get interceptions, and they didn't get them for, you know, it may hit a guy in the lap fall right in front of them. And then lo and behold, those same plays for Alabama State turned into interceptions. So they got after them defensively, but it just was a few breakdowns. Southern ran the ball pretty well. Man, Southern had some drop passes that broke my heart a couple times, but it's just one of those games where you look at 3rd to 7 and then you see the opportunities that they had and didn't take advantage of. It wasn't good for the Jaguars.
Now the question, we had 4 turnovers from the Jags, as you see. So would you say Alabama A&M really cranked up the defense, or were those more mistakes, those turnovers?
So one was a great play by the defense line. Southern's quarterback is running the ball, have it in his right hand as he's running to his left, and Alabama's, I want to say the linebacker came back and punched the ball out, and they jumped on that, maybe defensive end. Another one was a exchange on the zone read. It wasn't quite sure whether it was a pull read for the quarterback. Ball ends up on the ground. One of the interceptions that I was talking about, one was an overthrow in the end zone. I think the quarterback thought the guy was going to run what we call the opposite goalpost post, and the receiver cut it off. But it was sort of a bad read because it was in the double coverage. So either way he threw it, he was going to be wrong. And then the other one was a tip ball. Like I think it may have hit off 2 people's hand before the guy that actually caught it got one of those look what I found interceptions. And then they got a short field, maybe on the 20, 25-yard line and scored. But, 2 of the turnovers, I would say they definitely created, and 2 of them were a bad read and a miscommunication. So, take nothing from Alabama State defense. They got some good-looking cornerbacks over there and a real good-looking offensive line, truth be told.
Oh, okay, good. And we did have a couple of other games on the slate. Not going to take a lot of time with them. We had Grambling visiting number 1 Ohio State. Like Coach said, they brought a good band with them. And Bethune-Cookman, this game was closer when I first looked at it. They put up a good fight against Miami, and they looks like they pulled away. Because when I looked at it was 14. Wow, that was the first quarter. Okay. Yeah. 14-0. So looks like, well, at least they got on the board, and we just discussed that one. Texas Southern visiting Cal, and this one I kind of watched on through the stats. So, but I only saw the first half, so I didn't realize they pulled away big in the second half. But it was went out there, valiant effort, get your check, come home. FAMU, this one, I didn't know they would give up that many points. I was kind of because I was thinking this one would be kind of more of a case like what you said with Jackson. I thought the kids they're familiar with, and I guess I got caught off guard on that one. So what would your quick thought on that game? Were you expecting that big of a margin?
I would expect a little bit closer of a game between those two, but sometimes once the ball don't get rolling your way, especially early, you can see the body language change. But I wouldn't expect it a 56-14. I probably would have expected maybe a 35-14, 35-21 type of game. But I would like to see how did Florida Atlantic get, was it some, a lot of times the game comes down to the special teams, the punts, the punt blocks, the long kickoffs, because their second line, our first line guys, maybe besides the linemen, can play with anybody. But when they put in our second team guys that play special teams are not up to the same level as their second teamers that come on for the punt and the kick return. But and you'll see the difference, like how they run down the field looks different from the way our guys run down. And our guys running down sometimes to make tackles, those guys running down to hurt somebody and prove a point. Like, coach, I should be playing more than what I'm playing.
You sure do.
And what we have to tell our guys, what I would tell when we play up, hey man, this is the first film that they're gonna look at when they see that a Prairie View plays anybody that's supposed to be higher classification, that's the first film that the NFL scouts want to see. So you better make sure you're making some plays when you play up. So I would go back and look at that game and see where did Florida Atlantic get the ball, and then how did they score, and how was the special teams affected by the game.
Oh, okay. And then Valley visited Tarleton State,
who just beat Army or Navy, so they were coming off a pretty big high.
Yeah, and they're undefeated. Wow.
Yes.
So that one was pretty. And then the last one we hadn't covered was Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Central Arkansas. So I thought be a little closer being a fellow FCS team, but I guess they kind of got away from them pretty quick.
And I think in the big scheme of things, if you really look at Central Arkansas and their infrastructure, they're probably more on the lines of the Louisiana Lafayettes, the ULMs, than they are everybody else in FCS football. They have a pretty good setup up there.
Oh, okay. And then moving on to what most of our audience probably came to see, because I think this season, I think Southern has given out some chicken feet to some of these other people, because everybody is rooting against this team, which is Prairie View.
Yeah.
So we didn't turn out like we wanted, 27-21 in favor of UT RGV. A lot of people in the SWAC, they misunderstood this team. I'm not saying Prairie View did, but a lot of people that aren't familiar, they looked at this and thought we were playing, the college of three-legged people or something. But I've been following this team, and he's been building this team since 2023.
Yes.
And they've thrown a lot of money at this team. I mean, imagine how much money that is, that they sold 12,000 season tickets.
Yes.
And we're celebrating selling 1,000. So, and no excuse. You should be able to run with anybody. But I'm just saying, before people ready to just throw us out with the bathwater, this team wasn't what everybody think. Even though it's their first year, we won't be their only victory.
No, definitely not. If you see what they did, the personnel that they have a very good looking, size-wise offensive line. They have some pretty good skill guys. The coach has some ties to the area. I saw that one of the kids actually played for him in high school. The kid number 4, the wide receiver kick returner, played for him when he was a high school coach. So when you can have some ties and some good ties, you get a lot of bounce backs. You're able to have a good funding source for your program. That means a lot, and it is not like they just started practicing this spring or this fall and say, "Hey, we're gonna play some game." It wasn't that. But I'll tell you this, and some people may not say it. I think one of the things that went into somewhat of the mindset until Prairie really got rolling, it's hard as heck to get some 18 to 21-year-olds to focus on their next opponent. Number one, Grand Valley beat Sul Ross, a Division III team, 66-0, or whatever it was, something close to that.
Yeah,
so
66-0. Mm-hmm.
So you have some guys from Prairie View probably look like they didn't beat a very good team. The other thing that you have to think about, the whole week that Prairie View guys was walking around campus, besides the coaches, nobody else was talking about RGV. They still talking about Texas Southern. Like I say, and I would mess with guys like, "Hey man, you go to the cafeteria, you getting extra chicken, you getting extra red beans, you getting extra whatever in the cafeteria. You walking around campus, you got a new girlfriend, some girl that you never seen before. Start all of a sudden, you done seen her. Now she like you because y'all beat Texas Southern. So how do you as a coach combat that? I joke with the guys because I would always tell the guys, number one, congratulations on the win. Then I would tell them you really ain't did that much, and let's move on. But it's hard to convince guys at that age group to focus on the new task at hand. But they have a great setup down there. And I tell you what, I watched the game when I got back home today. I watched it. And man, when Prairie View made that run, there was a couple calls to me that if I'm Coach Jackson, will give me some concern. So Prairie View has the ball. Prairie View, the guy over the nose jumps a little bit. RGV's tackle moves, and they call a penalty on Prairie View. Later,
they did it twice.
RGV is on defense. They stem. The guy that's right over the guy jumps, and they don't call a penalty on them, which now, if you look late in the game, Prairie View had the ball, and it ended up being 4th and 4, where they would have got the first down had the penalty not been called. So that would have led me to some great concern, those calls coming down the stretch. But I just think that the Prairie View made a run, which a lot of people didn't think they were, but I think they see now that's going to be a pretty decent RGV team that they can play with everybody. You just have to come out from the beginning, because when I heard the score, I was very concerned that it wasn't going to look good the way the game started off. But I was happy as heck when they started making a run, and even when they took the lead. And I'm like, man, they're going to be able to hold on to this. But like I say, those couple of calls or penalties, a missed tackle. Oh, man, it was one missed tackle that they broke it to their sideline. I'm like, man, they had 11-1 football. Had a guy in place to make the tackle and simply didn't make it. And it goes from, if he makes that tackle, it's probably going to be a 2nd and a long type of situation. And then he breaks it and gets the first down. So I think, just the small things, like I say, answer mosquitoes from the beginning hurt the Panthers more than anything.
Now, you watched it on SWAC TV.
Yes.
And when you get a chance to come back to the stadium and see a night game, that HDR screen that we got, man, that it ain't like some people say, we ain't the biggest screen in Texas, biggest FCS screen. But my question is, when you looked at it on SWAC TV, I think it was the touchdown that put them up 17-0. Now on the screen in the stadium, it looked like he stepped, at least a fifth of his foot was on the line, out of bounds, too long. But it was almost like the refs, because the UT RGV crowd started getting riled up, it was almost like they were scared to reverse it. But I was trying to see, did it look like that on TV? Because on our screen, it looked like his foot clearly was on the line.
It was very close, to be honest, because if you looked at it from the end zone shot of the TV version, it looked like the guy had on orange shoes, so it looked like you could see white, a sliver of purple end zone, and then you see the orange shoes. So it looked like he was in, but it was one of those situations where the camera wasn't close enough. They initially called it a touchdown, and if the camera view doesn't show them what they call inconclusive, that, hey, everybody knows that this is not a touchdown, they would have overturned that call. But it was not very definite that he was in or out. But, it's one of those real close calls. And I don't think the fans had anything to do with it, being honest with you. They called it a touchdown and stuck with it.
And couldn't turn it off. Now, this was a big question that one of my friends asked me, and I didn't think about it till he asked me. Who picks the uniforms for the game?
Well, sometimes either the head coach will do it. If it's on grass, to be honest with you, especially if it was a away game, sometimes I would let the equipment manager pick, because nobody wants to play in white pants and white jersey and have to go back and clean all of that. So it depends on if you're playing on turf. Sometimes you leave it up to the guys. Hey, man, y'all go talk to the equipment manager. Y'all come up with what y'all want to wear, because to me, it didn't matter. So it just depends. Some people go by traditional. We're going to wear all purple one game. We're going to wear purple, white, white helmets, or if you have different helmets. So it just depends on the coaching staff, the equipment manager, and sometimes some people let a senior counsel pick, or they may have one freshman, 2 sophomores, 3 juniors, 4 seniors, and let those guys come up with what combination we want to wear.
Now, this was the reason I asked the question because, I'm no expert. I only played high school football. But because we wore white helmets, both the teams had white helmets. And then, if I remember right, I think our pants might have been white. So I was curious about when you at field level, at least when I remember playing football, you got to move off of instinct sometime. I have to see on my peripheral vision what I think is my teammate. You don't have time to take time and say clearly that's my guy. And I just was wondering about that choice of having a white helmet when the visitor had a white helmet, if maybe that's something that, could play as a factor. I don't know, but I was just curious about that.
Man, I can tell you this. If you have good football IQ, you could put both teams in the same uniforms and you should be able to figure out who's on your team by the way they running. And I'm not talking about body language, but are they running to you? Are they running away? Just all those things. Are they facing you? Are they at an angle from you? So it's all those different things. I think you should be able to tell. The white helmets, the same helmets, to me don't matter as much as the same color uniform. And that's just my opinion, but I could be wrong as heck, but I just think you can tell by the way people run and whether they for you or against you.
Okay. I was just curious about that one.
Yeah.
Also, with this game, it was interesting because the points, in the second half, it seemed like, because in fact, I was on Twitter and I think it's like a fan page. I don't think it's coaches, but somebody congratulated our coach on the adjustments. He said, even though we won, it's somebody called Down in the Valley. And he said, even though they won, he was really impressed with the adjustments we made because they didn't run away in the second half. Did you notice that we did make some adjustments to kind of slow things down, and also besides the obvious quarterback change, that we did some things to spark the offense as well?
Well, I think part of it from a defensive standpoint, when you go from 17 in the first quarter to they missed the field goal, and then you go a 3-point quarter, a 0-point quarter, the intensity of the defensive guys stepped up. And I think especially once Prairie View put some points on the board, the intensity of the defense, and then when you get it down to a 1 or 2 score game, because 20-7 is a whole lot different than 20-0, and you could still like, man, it's really a 2-score game. And like they came back and took the lead because of the way the scoring happened. So when you keep a game close, we always say, man, just keep flicking that jab out there and you give yourself a chance to win. And that's exactly what they did. Now, like I say, a lot of that goes to mentality too, because they were down last week and came back and took the lead. So you don't want to have to keep coming back and taking the lead. But I think that, sometimes I think people give offhanded compliments when it comes to adjustments, but a lot of it is sticking to the game plan and then players making plays. The guys from Prairie View made some plays, and then they still had a chance maybe to get an interception here or get a strip and cause a fumble and get a turnover. So I think the guys just kept playing and sticking to the game plan. And then the guys on the broadcast mentioned Coach Jackson's demeanor, that, hey, man, we still got a lot of football left to play. We know we can do this. And they did it. It's almost like they ran out of time. And then those couple of calls put them in a different situation than it should have been had they got their first down when they had to punt the ball back with, about 6 minutes when they took the lead. I think that was some of the things that changed the game more than anything. But, them guys, they going to keep on playing. As long as Coach Jackson, they coach, they going to keep on playing.
And it seems like to me, we ran across a team that has the same mentality as us, which is we don't care what they're doing. We'll keep fighting, because they really, I think my thing is, I was like, damn, where's my cleats? Because I'm like, I did not want to be their first Division I win. And I think that was the thing out of all the losses. I didn't want that, but it didn't blow up like I thought it would. But I was really thinking, man, this is going to be on national news. The NFL people going to talk about it, because if we'd have won, nobody would have talked about it. But when we lost, my Twitter blew up, and text messages everywhere. But my thing is, I think a couple different bounces of the ball. I think that game could have went either way. A couple different bounces, just a tackle that was missed here or there, a key penalty that we got, and then on top of that, a running back who hasn't fumbled since he's been at Prairie View.
Yes.
And they get a lucky fumble like that. It's like we got running backs that don't lose the ball. And I really give a shout out to our running backs, because we have, I think, 5 or 6 running backs, but these last 2 weeks we've only had 2 available. So I really give it to them for them to carry the load like that, between Campbell and Bingman, and Bingman's a young guy. Yes. So I really think that that's something and also the thing and I'm no coach, but I think if we get better at setting the edge on the rushing plays, that would really help, because I noticed that they use number 32 the same way that Texas Southern was trying to use number 28, just going off tackle like that. And, I don't know if it means we need to get a little wider with the linebackers, but they couldn't, that Sparks guy, I guess he's really big, because they ran up the middle a little bit, but not much. Because I didn't realize he was so much to deal with if you're trying to go up the middle. Now, you gotta go chase you to the end, but up the middle, it looked like he thought a hamburger was over there or something. They just wasn't coming up there.
So one of the things with the style of defense that Prairie View plays, if you remember when I got on the board and I was talking about the 4 technique, which is head up on the tackle, versus the 5 technique, which is outside shoulder of the tackle, that can make a little bit of difference. So if you look at a lot of times, RGV had quite a bit of time because Prairie View plays their guys in 4s, which is, in my opinion, not the best pass rush situation for those guys. But they're not in 4s really in most situations, to stop the run. They're, I would say, playing pass after they get a run read. So sometimes the edge may look different. So you have what they call them maybe bandits. I'm not sure what they call those positions. I call them overhangs. So if those overhangs get a down block, 9 times out of 10, they're going to trigger and either what we call spill, make the ball go back outside, or they're going to box it and send it back to the Mike linebacker, who should be free because the tackles cannot release because they have defensive ends over them. So it's different ways that you can either take care of the box, you can spill it, send it back to the Mike. So it's different things like that that make it a little bit concerning to the average fan that, they getting outside on us. Well, if they getting outside, that ball is supposed to get sent back inside. But a lot of people really don't see or understand that.
Yeah, and the other thing that got us, I noticed a few times, I don't know how many times they did it, but I remember seeing, they would put another tackle over there instead of a tight end.
Yes.
And I saw that a couple times. And also that number 73 and number 79, but they really liked running off of up 79's back. And I noticed that he blocks different than the people I see in the SWAC. And he blocks the way I like to see him block. He gets you in the chest plate.
Yeah, he's right trying to finish. Yeah.
And our people are blocking at the shoulders with their hands. And I'm like, I don't know if that's just different, but it ain't just our people. I just noticed in the SWAC, there's not a lot of tackles that just come up under your chest plate like that and just take you and turn you like that. It seems like you'll get less holding calls when you block like that than when you're outside the chest plate trying to block.
And it depends on what if they running. So to me, they were running what most people call a gap scheme. They ran some zone, but gap mean they got down blocks and pullers some too. So if you running a gap scheme, you're usually gonna have a double team somewhere. And then some teams, when they run in zone, we call it duo, where you're gonna get a double team, probably between the center and the guard. And depending on how they line up, you may get one between the guard and tackle on the 3 technique if there's nobody outside, and you can get movement that way. So sometimes it's gonna look like it's one guy doing it, but a lot of times it starts off as a double team and then one guy takes over. But we call that either a nub look. What they were doing, they put the tight end at the tackle backside. Some people call it, for lack of a better term, they call it a bastard look, because you don't normally see the tight end in the tackle spot. But a lot of times you can predetermine where they're going to run the ball. And they did a good job of getting to the edge. But I guarantee Coach Jackson and the guys are probably fussing at some of those overhangs about either not triggering fast enough, or maybe one of those safeties not forcing it.
Yeah, and I was surprised that our rushing was more than the passing. That's probably more attributed to the quarterback. I'll have to go back and look, because I didn't think, at least it didn't seem like they were under that much duress. We both had a sack.
Yes.
They had one, we had one, but I think we just weren't initially in sync on our passing, because there was some drops and there was some balls that went behind the guy or some balls that skipped to the receiver. Do you think it was a little more pressure than, say the casual person like me was seeing, and that was maybe causing that? Because the accuracy is not as good as it usually is, especially, when Cam was starting, the accuracy seemed a little off.
Yeah, I think it was just sometimes just dealing with the timing, the read, then trying to make a throw. A lot of it goes back to footwork more than it does arm strength or arm talent. You got to look at is feet and shoulders in the right position to make an accurate throw. And then, sometimes that ball is going to take off on a guy if he overstrides, and he'll short hop some of those guys if they're throwing more with arms than the whole body throw.
Yeah, and I think my thing is, and I hope that they kind of look at it on the tape. We didn't throw it go lightly, and he's like one of the biggest receivers in the SWAC. He's 6'4", 220, something like that. And he's the one that torched us when he was at Abilene Christian. I would have liked to at least see them attempt to go at him, because a lot of those D-backs they had weren't even close to his size. And our tight ends were running free all night. So hopefully when we go back and look at the tape, they can kind of let the quarterbacks know, look for those guys a little more. But even though we didn't win, I thought that was a fun team to play. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like when we go down there, because they had a lot of fight. And I like getting out of conference teams like that. I'd like to see us win more of those. Okay. Hold on, guys. Coach will be right back. True Secret, it won't be an annual series, but we do play them again in 2028. So it's not every year.
Sorry about that. Let me see if I got back connected.
Let's see. You sound good right there.
All right. Right.
Yeah, I think that looks good. How's the audio? Can you hear us?
Oh, man.
Oh, give Coach a second. Oh, we go back at 27. Okay. I didn't. So we'll be going down there in 27 then. So that's a long ways down the down the state of Texas. I'm not sure how many of us are gonna make that trip. I hope I'm in position to go down there. Should be a backup when we go down there.
The poor. I'm just laughing. I sort of laugh at certain things that people put out there, but a lot of time, man, it simply boils down to execution. If you run, some of those same plays that they are running, uh, they gonna work, and then sometimes it's gonna boil down to they brought some pressure. I think at times that we didn't take it. I say we didn't. When I'm saying we, Prairie View didn't take advantage of, and they played to me a lot of off coverage, so you wasn't gonna see the deep balls. So sometimes you got to take advantage of the slants and the hitches and turn some of those shorter passes into long passes. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see what he's saying. How far they throwing the ball downfield, but sometimes the defense is going to dictate: are you going to push the ball downfield? Do you have physical matchups? That's one of the things. Like say, when I worked for Doug Williams, he would always say, because that's an NFL type of thing. In the NFL, they look for physical matchups. In college, you look more for scheme matchups because people in college play a lot more zone. In the NFL, they play a lot more cover one, or they play what we call match zone, where you can be in a zone defense, but it turns to man. So if you have a physical mismatch, then you can take advantage of whether it's deep, crosser, double moves, different things like that. So that and coaches, more defensive coaches track where the ball is being thrown than offense.
Yeah.
Offense just, some people fine with taking that 4 and 5 yard run or pass because they know sooner or later you're gonna miss a tackle on first down, and it's gonna be 2nd and 2. Now they in a call whatever they want on the call sheet because they know they still got 3rd down to fall back on. And the thing about it too, when you don't establish the running game, a lot of times it's hard to establish the play action game. And I think the play action pass is what's going to open up doors for everybody.
Yeah. And that's the thing that the tight ends ran some slants. And I just thought if we would have just at least attempted a couple of those, because they were blitzing that one linebacker. And I just seen, I seen Jones, who's 6'7", run free on some plays, and I saw Keegan run free a couple times, and I just think that underneath would have opened us up because they would have stopped all that blitzing if we could have hit them on some of those slant routes, crossing routes, and then we could have hit go. Because I'm telling you, I just really hope they make it an emphasis to hit 85, because Golightly, he can make some things happen if you just get him the ball. And I just like to, and I'll be glad when we get the Joker back. One day they'll free number one, but I'm waiting on him to get back. Because, we saw at the scrimmage how fast that dude is. I just hated he twisted his leg like that. But man, if we get him in space, he's an issue. And so we I hate I'm going to miss the Rice game. I got class reunion this weekend. So, but I will tune in wherever it's playing at and try to watch it. So looking forward to that. I think the remainder games should be interesting. Now that we know somebody can hit us in the mouth, I think that was a good time to find that out. So I just believe that, with the technology we have now, they'll have all kind of angles and videos of the game. It's not the old film room like you had. But so this would be some really good video to tell them, where we need to make some. Because I think even from the Texas Southern game to this game, they made some corrections, and it wasn't a big improvement, but they did improve we had 150 yards of penalties that previous game. So we even had less penalties.
To be honest, that's the first thing I looked at. Let me see how many penalties that Prairie View have. So like I say, that is an improvement. It's still not where coaches going to want it, but you're trending in the right direction. I think one thing that they're going to want to do better is complete a higher percentage of passes, especially when you're not pushing it down the field vertically. You would like to complete a few more of those if you take out the throwaway passes. So I think that's one thing that that they'll look at how many throwaways did we have, how many drops did we have, how many just pure bad throws did we have, and get back to the drawing board and find out what do each of the quarterbacks, because both of those guys, if you look at them, are very similar in stature, but they, to me, totally different guys when it comes to, speed versus power, athleticism versus a slasher. So I think both of them give you a true dual threat. And in my opinion, you have to keep, if that's what those guys are, you can't make them drop back passes in a couple of weeks. So that's the thing that they're going to focus on. How can we get the ball in the hand of our playmakers, and how can we be efficient on offense?
And I think that it would have been. I was curious to see how Carter would be if we let him roll out and pass it, because after a couple of his runs, he made the defense commit if they saw him leave the pocket. And since I like to see him roll out and just kind of go over the blitzing guy head. And that's a good question, Darius. Who do you think, just from looking at that game, because anybody can have an off game, and you and I have kind of seen more of the quarterbacks than the other people, and we know that, over some extended time, those guys are kind of evenly matched, except, like you said, one is a slasher and the other one kind of is a bulldozer. Which one you think they'll go with to start off at Rice?
I think it's almost going to be a coin toss type of situation. Let's see. Maybe I don't know if they practice on Sundays or Mondays. What is their off day? But a lot of times, if we had because we had Jerry Lovelock and Smiley, so sometimes you chart everything still. Pass schedule, you charted team. Man, I God honest truth, I have gone to the cafeteria at lunchtime and say, let me see who the guy's sitting with. And that doggone, if it's that close, let me see who the guys feel like should be, because that'll tell you a lot. Who they eat with, who has the ear of the team. Man, I might ask the equipment manager about what's going on in the locker room. It may be ask the strength coach, hey man, who are they rallying around when they in workouts? Who's talking, and more importantly, who are they listening to? Because everybody can talk, but everybody can't get listened to. So it may be one of those type of decisions when it's all said and done.
Well, that was you just made me picture Smiley in that camouflage. he looks so big in that camouflage, but that was a fun quarterback room to watch because they were two different guys.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed watching them. I was really hoping Lovelock caught on in Baltimore when he went to the Ravens, but that was an interesting quarterback room, and they could both sling it, but it's like Smiley liked for somebody to try to tackle him.
Hey, if you talk to my brother, so on Tuesdays was our mostly live day. And some days Smiley would come out there and say, make me live, coach. And man, he would, if he was like the second, he would be torching the scout team. One year he couldn't play, and he could only practice. Man, he was torching threw the best left-handed ball probably that I've ever seen. But he was just a tough quarterback, liked playing football, had great understanding. And to be honest with you, he may have been a better fit for our offense than Jerry was, because Jerry was a good athlete. Like Jerry could hurt you with the run. For as big as Smiley looked, he could kill you with the run sometimes.
Yeah, they didn't like tackling him, but
because
I think he was the one made that touchdown during if you remember the you're on the clock game.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it's the big guy there. So
yeah.
What are your final thoughts of this game? As far as it looks like I would say that's even on time of possession, even though we had a little longer. And we had talked about it, I think last week, is we can't have a turnover. And I don't fault Bingman for that at all, because he's never fumbled. It was just the luck of the draw. But I think that that was the telltale sign of the game, because I think once we settled down after that first quarter, it was, we were ready to get at them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Did we kind of underestimate them and they hit us in the mouth, or do you think it was just a good start and we had to adjust?
They got off to a great start because of their tempo, but going back to what I said earlier, a lot of time it's just the mindset of the team because they had an outstanding win versus subpar competition, and then you beat your arch rival, and nobody's talking about who you playing next. So I think that sometimes can lead to a slow start. You're dealing with humans, so like I say, it is what it is. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but I guess in real life, people do that as well. Take things for granted based off what they've seen happen in the past.
Yeah, I think so too. So, yeah, and I think you already talked about this comment that we will still go with, probably start with Cam, but well, like you said, coin toss. This might be one of the lunchroom things to see who's talking to who. And that'll be the true test of you as a player is, okay, yeah, you had a couple rough passes, but where do you go from here and how do you recover? Do you go and rally your guys and say, and I guess we'll see how they practice. I think they practice on Sundays or they look at film or something. They do something on Sunday. So I like our chance. And I think we do a review. I think Lionel does a review of the upcoming game, but I saw Rice's triple option. That's going to be an interesting offense to play against. Do you think we'll need to make some changes to deal with that? It looks like they're pretty unbalanced. They run more than they pass, it looks like. Because I think that quarterback is young. I don't know if they really trust him like that yet, or if that's just the style they want to play.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at any film on Rice. The defense, depending on how they line it up, can be very well suited. It's going to be what we call dive quarterback pitch football. It's triple option. So it's a difference to me between triple option. The zone read to me can be double or triple option. But if they run a true triple option offense, especially if they don't pull a lot, you got to decide who do you want with the football in their hand. You can make it to where the quarterback pulls it every time. You can make it to where he gives it sometime, or you can make it to where he pitches it every time. I like making quarterbacks have to pitch the football, because if they pitching the football, that means they about to get hit. And most quarterbacks do not like to get hit over and over and over again. But if they pulling people, then they can do what we call +1 you, which now the quarterback can keep it a little bit longer than what you would like him to. So it's a couple of different things that you can do to make him get rid of the football. But I like making that joker pitch because he about to get hit. And I would tell guys sometimes he better, when he get rid of the ball, he better put his hands up like this, because if not, we want to make the referee know that he's still a threat, so we're going to hit him every time.
Yeah, because he's a running back. But just to not lose the segment, our favorite segment, the under the headset, we wanted to kind of transition over to that real quick.
Okay. Can you switch over to the other camera? All right. So I'm going to just talk about a couple things. We talk about zone read. So like I say, you have to determine whether or not it's double option versus triple option. So most of the time, it's going to be double option for most teams. So what you have to decide, or I have to decide as a coach, this is the blocking scheme that we probably going to see if they run the zone. So what I would do, I have a couple different things that I can call to who do I want to run the ball out of the quarterback and the tailback. So sometimes we may have a game where if I want the tailback to run the ball, we will call what we call front to back. So I'm going to call the defensive front. That means the 3 technique is going to go to the tailback. So that means I'm going to go in, tackle, tackle, in to that side. So everybody's zoning. This guy here is going to squeeze. That's my defensive end. This is who the quarterback, that's his read. So this guy we're going to call squat. And then he's going to actually say what we would tell him, say no chase. That means he's not going to chase this. So when the quarterback sees this guy's shoulder square, he's going to squeeze it, squat. He should give the ball off to the tailback. And that means I don't want this guy to run it. Now, the other thing I can do, if I know I'm going to give them this squeeze and squat, if they run a true zone, the other thing I can do, this is my strong side, this is my weak side. So my weak side in, I wanted him to go inside. I may call a pinch call. So now we know they're going to zone this way. I'm going to have a linebacker. My Mike is going to be here. My Sam is probably going to be out there. My Will is going to be there. So I can make the ball go outside. When we talk about our free hitters, we can make the ball go where we want to go. So now I made the tailback get the ball. I know 9 times out of 10 they're going that way. I can leave this gap open because this guy, he should be stepping B gap anyway, or I can put somebody in the B gap and make the ball bounce outside to a free hitter. Because if they go, this is just double option. Now they may have, I'm gonna put an H and an X over here. If they have all that out there, it can go back to triple option football. So that's to put it lightly. So I made the tailback get the ball, and I can leave this gap open, let him run fit, or I can make it bounce. So that is my front to back and our base defense. Okay. And I run it with no call or with a pinch call. Now, if I want the tailback to run the ball, so I'm gonna just give you the same pretty much look. I'm gonna switch the tailback, Q and T. So what I would call my front, we call it Q. I ain't want to get no fight with nobody throwing up no mega or no hooks or whatever. So we call this Q. That means the front, the defensive tackle, the strong side is going to be to the quarterback. So they're going to make a right call. We're going to run that. So now it's all about controlling the B gap. That's what we tell people. So they're going to zone this way 9 times out of 10. So since nobody's in the B gap, we're going to get a chase call. So they run a zone read. He is going to chase, and he is going to tackle that guy no matter what. He's going to tackle that guy. So he's canceling the B gap. If they zone that way, my Mike linebacker is still playing A gap run right there. Sometimes I can make a chase call, and my Mike can play the quarterback, just depending on how athletic the quarterback is. All right. The other thing I can do, if I want the quarterback to keep the ball, I can make this the strong side is here. Remember, I said my weak side in. If I make a pinch call, he is going inside. So when the quarterback sees that, that's a pull read. And now, like I said, I still have a Will or Sam out here that now we're going to make him pull it, and we got somebody sitting there waiting on him. So that's another way we can defend the zone read. The other thing I can do, I can go base it, pinch it, and then on the front side, I can make a Steve call. So Steve just means a strong side of the defensive line is going to pinch inside. So I can force the ball outside if he does give it, but he should still have a pull read because this guy is chasing or pinching. So there's a couple of different things that we can do to make the ball go where we want. But the first thing we have to do is to determine, is it double or triple option? And then the next thing we have to do is determine, who do you want running the ball in a zone read offense? Especially if they're not pulling people, that's how we determine where we want the ball to go. Because a lot of times you want to get it out of that quarterback's hand, depending on if they run a triple option. And if they're truly a double option team, you decide between the quarterback or the running back, which one do you want to have the ball in their hand.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. So that's so you can kind of force who you want to get it. So whoever's really being that most effective, that's who you're gonna get. So now it's an interesting question that Chris Ford said that we didn't key on the running back in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And they did really seem to get us on that belly route to number 32. Is any like shifts or things we should have done?
I think the other thing too, you can't cover everything. Fans want everything. It's a weakness to every defense. Man to man is physical limitations. Cover 2, you had the corner routes in the middle of the field is going to be wide open. Cover 3, they're going to read. You can go 4 verticals. You can go curl flat, slant curl combinations, or the wheel route. So it's something going to be open in every defense. So you just, as a coach, you have to pick your poison. The other thing, you can say, okay, we'll take the check down, but we got to make the tackle. If we know we're giving up flats, curls or underneath route, then we know we have to do a good job. What we call them rally to the football, make the tackle. So those are some things that as a fan we don't see, but you can't cover. It's a weakness everywhere, and you just got to make the decision on how you want to deal with your shallow routes because you don't want to give up anything deep. How you gonna deal with the rub routes if you play man, and then how you gonna deal with the wheel route if you playing cover 3. So most people say if you get a second guy through a zone, then you take the second guy through your zone. And one day I'll show how do we call it match. Is it 3 to 2 to 1, 2 to 1 to 3, 1 to 2 to 3? And I'm talking about we count receivers from the outside in. So, it's one of those. And he had a lot of time to decide, am I going to push it downfield, take the void shot, or am I going to wait on this wheel route to come up? And unfortunately, he did have time to sort of make those decisions here and there.
Yeah, and I guess you can't do it every time, but I know Sterling Roberts gave him some problems when they did send him because it was causing him to get off the mark. It'll be interesting to see when they play somebody that can get some good push, how accurate he could be, because his accuracy went down when we brought a little heat, to the pocket.
And sometimes as a defense coach, you have to figure out, like, can we play man with these guys and just heat them up? Or can we play man and get to them? Can we play some zone? Can we run some 5-man, some overloads, and still either get to them or cause them to move left or right or something like that? So it's a pick and choose, so you just hoping that it works out for you. Not hoping that it works out, but looking at what can we make stick. I know I've gone in one year we played Southern Miss, and I think we went in a little bit tentative, saying, well, okay, we're gonna play some zone and keep everything in front of us. And they had a receiver, a big 6'6" receiver that was pretty doggone good. And after a little bit of the game, I think they may have scored a quick 14 or something on us, 20. And then the guys like, Coach, we think we can run with these guys. And for the rest of the game, if you go back and look at my call sheet, we ran Saw, which is Sam and Will. We ran Saw X. We ran Mo, Mike and Will, Mash, Mike. We sent every pretty much linebacker blitz we had at them and just let our guys lock up. And we played a much better second half than we did. But I think we went into it like, let's keep everything in front of us. And sometimes you got to say, if they not picking and rubbing, hey, man, let's go get that joker back there. We ain't going to let them have time to think.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw us do that a few times. And like Lionel said, we would get pressure with 4. But like he said earlier than that, we had to figure out how we want to do the pressure. Mm-hmm. So I think that will come around. Yes. Still preseason. I just don't want the fans to panic. We do want to win those out of conference games, and I especially wanted that one. First Division 1 game. That kept me up last night. I'm like, oh God, be on the NFL, everything. But they'll have a big party in South Texas.
It wasn't like Langston losing to Prairie View to end the streak for all those concerned. They're gonna be more than Prairie View. They're gonna be decent in a couple of years. Don't be surprised if they are Conference USA or one of those type of schools.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yes. So it is what it is, though. That's like say Prairie View to moved on. They done watched the film and now they ready for who's up next.
And that's what we got coming up next. So so we enjoyed everybody getting out tonight. I know we had to wrap up at 10 tonight, but we'll definitely
want me to run through the top offenses, or you won't save that one for next week?
Let's see how you look on time. Can we hit that one real quick? Yeah, we probably can hit that one real quick.
All right, then we're in on that. So this week on North, like we talk about offense. So I'm gonna talk about some of the toughest or the best offensive I've seen, not just in the SWAC, but that I've had to go against as a defensive coordinator. Number one, I'm not gonna say in order, but I just wrote them down sort of in that I could just think of when I'm thinking about the top team. So number one, I'm gonna start off with that Grambling offense. They had Bruce Eugene, they had Clyde Edwards, Henry Tolbert, Ab Corn at running back. They had an offensive line that was massive. I think they had 4 guys that were over 300 pounds or 320 pounds. But they did a good job. Like say, Bruce was probably, I always say he was probably the smartest quarterback. Bruce would call his own plays a lot of times. And, Coach Spears and Coach Brown just let him call plays. And he could pick out very quickly, cover 4, cover 3 man. And he would almost always slide to protection to his left. And if you sent somebody on his front side, he almost always had a flat route or angle route. So I'm going to give Bruce Eugene and the Grambling 2005 team, that was my very first year at Prairie View, I'm going to give them a nod. Another beast, doggone Darnell Kennedy and the Alabama State Hornets with Johnny Cole as the offensive coordinator. Now, Johnny Cole is the reason why we, in my mind, the substitution rule, Johnny would call the whole play, the personnel, send him out on the field with about 12 seconds left. And as a defensive coach, you pretty much was scared to substitute. So you had to keep base or nickel on the field. Man, Darnell Kennedy threw one of the prettiest balls you ever saw. And I didn't realize he played for him that long, but we played him in the championship game. They had some good receivers too, but not many people in football threw a better pass than doggone Darnell Kennedy. That was a nice joker with some good football players at Alabama State. And like say the Cole brothers over there, I want to say Coach Mickey Joseph was on the staff with them. They had a very good offensive staff, and their defense was pretty good too, but that doggone Darnell Kennedy was something else. Next, Willie Simmons' Prairie View offense was pretty doggone good. If you think about it, he had Trey at quarterback, and it's my fault. I left him Jonte Abear, Courtney Brown, Fred Anderson. I want to say Kadero Hodge was a freshman. He was a young guy on that team. And then every offensive lineman except one had been a 2-year starter at Prairie View the year. I'm talking about the first year I was at Texas Southern. That offense was pretty doggone good. Not only were they coached well, but they had some real doggone good football players. So I'm going to give Coach Willie Simmons' Prairie View offense a lot of kudos for what they did in that first year that he got there. Next, the Jackson State offense with Casey, I want to say Therio, however they pronounce his name. Like I say, I'm from Louisiana. We call it Therio. The Jackson State offense with those guys were pretty good. He had the wide receiver that went to the Falcons. I can't think of his name right now. He had Renty Rollins at tight end. Matter of fact, Prairie View's offensive coordinator now may have been a GA or the tight ends coach on their staff. And they had that doggone Casey. He ran the best quarterback sneak ever. I don't know how that joker did it, but he wouldn't run right behind the doggone center and guard. He would almost run like a power off tackle. But he could find football players open. I mean, he would throw the ball in great anticipation. Not the strongest arm, but you could tell he had a great understanding of football. But that was a pretty good offense. Then last but not least, Southern University, when they had Quincy Richard, look, I see them guys from time to time when I go home. Them jokers will put on the show. I always tell them guys, look, he had some frisbee catching dogs over there. You couldn't say, I'm going to stop this guy, because if you focus on one, you're going to leave two more to the backside, either wide open or, they'd call you. Still had a pretty good offensive line, but he had some frisbee catchers over there that could make plays for him. So, and my last two, my honorable mention, I got to go with the Wide Bone when he was at Bethune-Cookman. Coach Wide, looking like the Whispers out there with his suit on. It looked like his mechanic suit, looking like what's my man name on Martin, the mechanic that was seen. But man, that joker that run that option, that triple option, and they carve you up, and then every now and then they'll hit you with a pass with a joker running so wide open he almost scared to catch it. And last but not least, man, we played North Dakota State one year when I was at Prairie View, and I remember pregame, Carson Wentz was a freshman, so I forget if I say the guy's name, you'll probably remember he played in the league and Canadian League, but Carson Wentz was on the field warming up as a freshman, and I tell, Rico Rich, that was a dog there. Carson Wentz was a freshman, and I'm talking to North Dakota State head coach. I say, man, your quarterback is bigger than I thought he was. I say, man, I didn't think he was that big of a kid. He said, oh, that's a freshman. That's Carson. He's going to be pretty good for us. Well, Carson got in the game late and went 8 for 8 against us. So, and he ended up being the third pick of the draft. So I'm gonna give those the top offenses that I have seen. And I know KJ Black, if he see this, probably go give me a call. Man, how you ain't put us on there? But I'm just talking about the other thing is too, and a lot of people don't know this. When we played North Dakota State, man, we had a bomb threat before the game. So they come in and they have this look on their face, like almost like, how do I tell this guy this? And why they want to bomb threat us, I have no idea. But, it was sort of fun as coaches when we talk back about it. Like, first of all, it's cold as on nowhere in the dome. The bleachers are when I'm talking about very close to the sideline, super close. And we end up with a doggone bomb threat playing against the number one team in FCS football. So those are my top offenses. I'm going to leave it at that.
Those guys are good. I remember that game because I remember hey, wide receiver was as strong as our offensive tackle. He carried two guys into the end zone.
But the other thing is, and man, they had the fastest white kids I ever seen in my life. But we talk about
they were
the South Louisiana white kids a little bit different. But man, they had and they get them from everywhere. But them jokers, they had a real good running back, offensive line. And they ran power like nobody else. They ran a 3-man power, what we call it, because they pull the backside H-back, the front side fullback, and what we call it, they would skip block with the backside guard, and he would wrap into the A-gap. So unless you had a guy that was triggering real fast, you couldn't do much with what they did.
You couldn't touch them that year. I remember that.
They pretty good.
Yeah, they were tough. So yeah, that's a good segue. I appreciate that one. That's KJ Black gonna get you for not mentioning him, but I don't think you had to deal with him.
Hey, you know what? And lo and behold, so Coach Sewell, who's the defense coordinator at Morgan State, hey man, we were very competitive in camp and practice, but we would keep up with like how many days in a row we could stop them from scoring. But a lot of that was before KJ got there. Sometimes they might go a week in practice without scoring on us. True story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was a good one. Any final thoughts on our upcoming week or the past week? You're good on all those?
Look, man, I really do think the game going to be better than a lot of people think. If we can, you got to pick who you're going to stop. Most people say you got to stop dive quarterback. You can run to the pitch, but the thing is you can't give up. You can't get so caught up in stop and dive quarterback that you give up an easy or big play in the passing game. That's going to be the key to it. Stretch that thing out, use your speed, and then don't give up big plays in the passing game.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key. We just don't want to get in a foot race with them. We want to grind it out with them and see where we can go from there. Because, like you said, we can stay within a score. So that's a lot.
And it's not going to be a lot of possession. So you got to hope when Prairie View does get the ball, they don't press because they feel like we got to score. Because some of those drives, it's going to be Rice may go for it a lot of times on fourth down, fourth and less than 2. So that's going to take extra time. They're not going to be in a hurry. So every time you get it, you may feel like as an offense, we got to score. And the key, another big key is, can you keep them kicking field goals as opposed to going for on fourth and then not getting pre-snap penalties, giving them a short field?
Yeah, and no roughing the kicker or any of that stuff. So
yes,
that
sir.
would really hope, and hopefully we can get some good, time of possession to keep their offense off the field as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, well, we appreciate your time, Coach. I know you had a long weekend.
Hey, man, look, as soon as I got home, I ate. I thank my sister and my family for cooking for us when we got back. They made it real easy. And, man, I slept a long time because it was rough, man. I tell you what, but I thank my family. I'm glad I got a chance to see my former teammates. And I look forward. I told my guys, man, we got to do what Prairie View did at Southern and make it everybody knows what's going on. We gonna make it better the next few years, but I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I think all teams should do that. That was a really good event. I mean, I felt like I played. I enjoyed it so much. So
yes,
definitely should do that. So we appreciate your time. Thanks for everybody for coming out. And we'll see you guys. Well, you'll be seeing the young guys next. I think that's the next show. So be looking for updates during the week. And yes, we lost, but the rest of y'all haters out there, don't get happy yet. We got something coming for y'all. And have a good night. Take care. And
hey, and if anybody down there tailgating, let me know because I don't mind coming by and have me a good piece of meat before I go call the game. So let me know if anybody out there tailgating.
Yeah, definitely let us know. Let me text Coach Northern. He come by and grab a piece of meat on the way to the thing. Just don't get no sauce on Mike Prince's microphone.
Nah, I'm not.
Y'all have a good night.